That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. Huh? It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to another episode of the OneCast. Coming to you, we're all back in studio again.
Episode what? 128?
128, 129, 130. I don't know.
See, I lose count after, I think it's like every 4 or 5, then I lose count again.
Yeah, I was good for a little bit, but it's gone now.
It's fine.
Really excited. A lot of you have asked about batteries and lithium batteries, so we're excited to have Beau from Volta Power come on and talk about lithium batteries and the products they have. But before we do that, we got to talk about those that make this possible for us. And that starts with the very first partner of ours, OneCast Fishing.
OneCastFishing.com is the website you need to head to. You need to get your hands on those long neck hooks right now. Definitely do that because you need to drag a big Carolina rig around. A lot of them are offshore. They're eating a big worm and stuff. But while you're there, also get your hands on the snagless jigs, joining the snagless revolution with all the different variants that he has. The soft plastics, the weedless neds, the merch is over there. All that great stuff we keep talking about. Stock up on those Nighthawks for next year's spawn and for this year's buzzbait and swim jig fishing, man. Get that pearl color that's new this year. Use the code TheOneCast at checkout. Save some money. Also, head on over to where, Ben?
Well, they need to head over to their phone.
Oh, yeah.
I know we're going a little bit out of order.
Yeah.
You just messed everything up. Rick.
Well, Ben's wearing a Carolina Waters hat.
So, okay, let's do Carolina Waters first, since I am wearing one of those hats. This is one of their new hats. So it's a less structured one. So it's more like a ball cap, mesh ball cap. But head over there at Carolina Waters, nc.com. And use the code TheOneCast.
That's right.
Oh, one word. Ben doesn't usually do this one, so he's asking while he's telling.
That is true. Yeah, we each have our own, but go over there, pick yourself up that UPF gear. Always wearing mine out in the water. Those I like the long sleeve.
Yeah.
I don't like the hoods though.
You're not a hood guy.
I'm not a hood.
But
guy.
they got the neck buffs. So you can get the neck buffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1,007 degrees outside right
0.4.
now. And I'm doing some stray voltage, as Beau's going to probably talk about here, and throwing some wrenches in the gears of the guys this opening. But CarolinaWatersNC.com, it's 1,007 degrees out. Get all that UPF gear. Pete, where else they need to go?
Yeah, head over to HobieEyewear.com or use the link if you want to save money. That's always in the description on our socials, all of that. Head on over there, grab yourself some of the floating frame glasses. If you follow us on socials, Trey snagged up a pair of somebody's other brand off the bottom of a certain lake known as Karen Harris.
Yep.
And brought those up. So he has a pair of glasses that somebody had lost, and they had Hobies, floating frames. They would just pluck them right out of the water, put them on their head, and kept fishing. So make sure you head over there and grab those. And then, Ben,
now we're back to
where we should be.
our regular scheduled advertisements.
He's like, head on over to Terry Carpenter.
No, but this time now go to your phones, go to your Play Store, your Apple Store, download the Deep Dive app. Take advantage of that free trial over there, but you're definitely going to find out with all the features it is worth paying on the subscription for the year. I just got our local lake up right now, Jordan Lake, and I'm looking at the water level, still a little bit high.
Yeah.
With all the rain we've had, they've been pulling water over the last week because I'm checking the current flow. I'm looking at the water clarity from just a day ago. It was updated. Looks like mid-lake between Farrington and 64 Bridge is the clearest water. So before you go out there to fish, it can help you identify those locations, get tied in with the actual conditions on the water so you can have a more successful day. So go try the Deep Dive app out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you're done doing all that, since you see all of us posting these giant bass pictures around, it's going to make you want to move to Central North Carolina. And when you're doing that, you're going to need a great realtor, and that's Terry Carpenter, Uncle Terry, as we call him. He helped Pete and Chelsea get into their house here. And what was most important, Pete? Got the boat in the garage, right? So Terry's a bass angler, and he's going to help get you in that home of your dreams. He is with Howard Perry Walston, Caldwell Banker, right? So you can reach him at carpentert@hpw.com. Oh, man. Nailed it, right? And he's going to get you squared away with the dream home. What is going on besides it being 1,007 degrees?
1,007.4 degrees. Keith Poche won the Invitational.
Oh, my gosh.
There's drama on the East Coast of North Carolina over shrimp trawling and wreck fishing and commercial. They're all fighting. And yeah, just another day in the neighborhood, you know.
Okay, listen, Pete's no stranger saying he doesn't watch a lot of MLF stuff, but here's the deal. That Major League Fishing Invitational event on the James River was so cool. Like some of the best footage, in my opinion, right? As a consumer for the year, everyone is obviously saying, like, I'm tired of looking at anglers' backs. Well, here's the deal. You looked at all the anglers' backs anyways. Didn't really matter what they were doing. But the excitement at the James River, Keith Pochet doing what he does best, taking that little aluminum Gator Tracks boat off the grid, essentially, and catching some big bass. But I think one of the most interesting things that I saw during it was Cal Lane got into some backwater, and he runs a Phoenix, I want to say, and he didn't realize that the tide was rising, and him and his cameraman played the game trying to get his boat underneath a tree to get out to even make it back to weigh in, to the point where he's taking all of his graphs off his boat. They're trying to like wedge it with a giant log. Like you can hear stuff cracking. I just know that stuff is broken, man. It was super cool though. It took him about an hour, I'd say, maybe a little less, to get out from underneath that tree. And when he got done, it looked like your boat just got out of the jungle. You know what I mean? Like there's branches everywhere.
Poor planning makes for good television.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, like, good luck selling that boat, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, if anybody watched that. But that was a really cool thing, man. Keith Pochet, I think he won that by like 2 or 3 pounds or something like that. So some good old school fishing, man. That's what it was.
And it was only a 2-day event too because of the weather, right?
I think that was the MPFL event. Yeah, I don't know if the Invitational got canceled. The MPFL event down in Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma.
Because the Invitational they're supposed to do what, 1 day live scope, 1 day they don't.
I have no idea.
Correct. Yes. Yep. So day one, they can use forward-facing sonar. Day 2, they cannot. And those who make the cut for day 3 can use it, right? That was a shallow water derb all day long. Some guys were out there catching them offshore shaw banks and stuff like that. But I think what you're referring to is the MPFL's event at Lake Eufaula.
Listen to our episode last week, and we go all through that one.
Mm-hmm. And Chad Marler won that one.
So hopefully we saw you at the lake cleanup that just passed.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even talk. Oh yeah. We got a giveaway coming. 2 things. We have a half-gallon OneCast branded Yeti water bottle. I haven't figured out how we're going to do that, but also got a new print for in here that is at my house. I didn't get to go home before coming here today, so it's still there. We're going to replace one of these 2 with the new print, and we'll give away one of Jeff's prints that we have here. Cool. So keep your eyes on the socials and listening for how we're going to do that. And without further ado, we are ready to learn and talk and understand why Trey's using the wrong batteries in his boat. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Beau. I think it's Batten, could be Baton. Beau, you can correct me when I get you on with Volta Power USA. Let me add you. I got to change the view. I'm a little slow right now. There we go. There's Beau.
Oh,
what's going on, man?
What's going on, gentlemen? And it is Batten, dude. You had it right the first time, man.
Beau Batten. That's a strong name.
It is.
Strong name. Beau Batten, where are you from?
I was born and raised in a little town in Maricopa, Arizona. Graduating class of like 102 kids. And then Katrina came, and it hit over there in, I believe that was New Orleans area, Louisiana. And then everybody moved to Arizona, man. We don't have any natural disasters. We've got tornadoes. The biggest thing you're going to do is everybody moved here, dude. So it went from 109 to like 300 in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get some sandstorms from time to time still, don't you?
Yeah. Thanks for calling it a sandstorm. Everybody here thinks they're all fancy and call it a haboob.
A haboob?
Yeah, dude. That's what they call it.
What?
That's what they
Now
call
I know
dude.
that I'm calling that because that's kind of cool.
That's because it's the Arab word for sandstorm.
Is it really?
It is. Yeah, it's a dust storm, man. It's not sand. It's dirt.
It's dirt and dust.
Haboob.
Yeah.
It's dirt. That's
Habibi,
right.
Haboob.
That's right.
All right, I'll stop.
No, you're good. Well, but tell us a little bit about yourself. And we usually we ask too many questions before we start, and we know too much. So we've been trying to come in the last few without popping the cherry on the questions. So
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into, I don't know if you're into fishing or kind of how you got into the battery world, and then we'll go into,
Yeah, man.
the product you're producing.
Yeah, so I've lived in Arizona my whole life. Arizona lakes are amazing. I've been fishing since I've been throwing a bait caster since I was about 5 years old, and uh, just doing it. Like my dad was the cool guy. He took me out of school on Fridays, and we'd go and take trips up to lakes and fish Friday night, all day Saturday, half day Sunday, and come home. Did a couple like the local derbs when I was younger. Nothing out of the ordinary, like the air invitationals. Like my dad's friends work at like we did the Budweiser tournament, so you have to be invited. You can't just register, stuff like that. But yeah, I've been fishing my whole life. But what got me into the battery stuff was my dad went and he started his battery career in the forklift side of things. And he was in the sales department, so he got phone call after phone call, and he got a lot of phone calls for golf car batteries. And he looked into it, and he's like, "Dude, there's a market there. Let's try it." And then he left the job he was at, started the battery guy. The battery guy's been in business for over 12 years. I've been with him for 10. And we do on-site deep cycle battery installation on golf carts, RVs, solar systems, and boats. And Arizona is a real big retirement state, so we have a lot of folks that are very seasonal. So obviously our work is pretty seasonal. I mean, we got year-round work. Don't get me wrong. There's construction workers, pallet jacks, scissor lifts, that kind of thing that keep us going. Especially like RVs in the summer. Everybody goes up to the pine trees to get out of here. So we do a lot of RVs. And then about 4 or 5 years ago is when lithium started hitting the scenes for the golf cart side of things. And when that started, we had a knock on the door, as everybody else does. Kick the door in. Best thing since sliced bread, can't go wrong. This thing's going to make you a millionaire. Okay. The very first lithium that we put in for the golf cart side of things, man, I still have them on the road without problems. But then when it got traction and people were trying to get them out there, we went through about 6 different manufacturers. And consistency with that is that everybody's your best friends when your bills are paid. And then the second you have a problem, you can't get anybody on the phone. Dude, janitors on vacation, like nobody's answering phones. So that didn't sit well with us. We're very, very, very big on customer service on our side of things, especially with the battery guy, because in these 55 and older communities, everybody talks. They all got their own little email forums, and like you start having bad service, word travels fast. So what happened is there was one battery company that we were dealing with. Wasn't really, they were doing great for about a year and a half, and then we started seeing them kind of, something's going on, something's weird, and it was just like the domino effect. So over the summer, our slow season, we prepared for when they come back because we just assumed that they were going to fail, and luckily we prepared for it because they did. And trying to get the warranties resolved, it just wasn't working. So that summer, my dad pulled me into the office, and he looks over at me. He goes, "Hey, I need you to build me a lithium battery." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Let's just."
He's like, "No, I'm not
I'll go
joking."
back and start right now, And he's like, "No, man, I'm serious." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean you're serious?" Well, I can't. I lead acid. That's all I know. I pride myself in my knowledge of lead acid batteries because that's my whole career. That's everything that I've done. I said, "Dad, I know enough to get myself in trouble, but I don't know enough to like build one." He's like, "All those times you've been on the phone with tech support trying to figure these lithium problems out, you don't think you have any idea?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I got a pretty good idea. I know that there's 16 cells. I know that they're all tied in series to make the 48. They all have a BMS." And he goes, "See, you're already halfway there." And I'm like, "Wonderful. Okay, perfect." So luckily, with it being seasonal, we have a couple of seasonal guys that like one of them, well, the guy that helped me out a lot, his name's Abel. He's in the next room here. He's over in we call the war room. And he's getting some stuff done over there. But he's that guy that's a techie guy. He's a tinkerer. If he can take it apart, he can put it back together. And when he puts it back together, 9 times out of 10, it's better than when he had it to begin with. So him and I started knocking our heads together and taking stuff apart and doing some research. And Volta Power was born. When we first started, we had no intentions in getting into the marine side of things. We had no intentions of developing a 12 volt or a group 31 size 36 volt. So our batteries are kicking butt and taking names. And my uncle is a professional fisherman. He's fished the FLW on the West Coast. He fishes the one bass. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I've had the privilege of fishing the one bass. What an amazing event! Shout out to those guys, man. Billy Egan runs a heck of a tournament. But we were at lunch one day, and he kind of leans over the table and looks over his glasses, and he's like, "You make me a battery for my boat?" And I'm like, "Well, I did this, so yeah, I'll give it a shot." And got a couple testers made up, and they've outperformed our expectations. And obviously, with that being said, Dad was like, "Hey, do you think this is something we can do? You fish, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Well, we can give it a shot. I mean, I want to have people test them vigorously, because the last thing I want to do is tarnish my name in the fishing industry, because that's my passion.
Right.
I don't want my name to be drugged through the mud, because if I ever decide to chase the dream, it's going to put a lot of dampers on my career if that were ever the case." And so I have a gentleman here, local guy. He's a stick, man. His name's Sean Coffey. He's the most humblest person in the world. And if he's not fishing, he's guiding. If he's not guiding, he's recarpeting boats. Like he's just submerged in the community.
Yeah.
He's in it, exactly. And I called him up and I'm like, "Hey man, you want to be my test dummy?" And he was having some issues with the batteries that he had in his boat at the time. So he was like, "Yeah, dude, I'll give it a shot." And he's had my batteries in his boat. He's had the testers for about 2 months, and then the end game came in. The final product started to trickle in, and then he's had them in there for about 8 months now. And we've had 0 hiccups with the battery. And like I said, this kid, I mean, he cashes checks to pay his bills. So, he's in it to win it. This is what he does. He pushes them, and he makes them work. And I told him, I said, I need brutal honesty. I don't want you sugarcoating nothing. I want you to, if something's bad, you got to tell me, brother, because I got to fix it. And man, we've gotten really, really, really good guys testing our stuff, and he's never had an issue. So, but back to the battery itself, the one thing that separates our battery from everybody else's in the industry is how it charges and balances. So in the lithium, you guys want me to just dive into this?
Just get it, yeah. Because these are the kind of questions we get asked, and we have no idea how to answer. So.
Okay, perfect. I didn't know if you guys had any other questions for me before I just start getting long-winded.
Trey has a list right now in his head that's already probably 7,942 questions, and you might answer them before you can ask them. So
where were you?
Perfect.
On 9/11.
Well, Trey, get out your pen and notepad, partner. Let's start taking some notes, and then we'll come back to it.
I don't need
it. So
this is being recorded.
So the lithium components are made up. Lithium batteries are made up of multiple components. First and foremost is obviously the cell type. Secondly is your BMS. Your BMS is your computer, your brain. It's what runs everything and makes sure everything works. Those
BMS
are the two most important things.
Battery management system.
Nailed it. Yeah, look at that. Write that down, Trey. And I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just busting your chops. But yeah, so battery management system. Yeah, so you can function a battery with just those two things. All you need is the power itself, and then you need something to tell it how to distribute the power. If you have those two things, you can build a lithium battery. We didn't stop there. We wanted to make sure that we had a quality battery, above market standard battery, and we wanted to build it to where it was economically savvy for the weekend warrior and the professional angler. So the two types of cells that you can get in a lithium battery is a cylindrical cell or a prismatic cell. Cylindrical cells are very common in the deep cycle world. They're common in like Tesla. Teslas are cylindrical cell batteries. There are a bunch of them in the Tesla. And just so like you guys understand, and the people that are going to see this, a cylindrical cell is like, if you ever known anybody that vapes and they have to like charge their batteries.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. But it's about the size of like a C. Remember the old mag lights?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're that size. That's what we're dealing with. And the way that they set it up is how they transfer the energy is they put it between two plates. So you have this cell, and it's in between two plates, positive on one side, negative on the other. And these two plates are what is generating the electricity to your positive and your negative. So if you were to be cruising down the lake or the river or whatever body of water you're running on, and that thing's shaking back and forth, and you hit a really good breaker or something like that, and one of those cells gets moved or bent or anything, your battery's dead and it ain't coming back to life. That's why we chose not to go that route, because it wasn't efficient enough. And the most common cell that's going to have a thermal runaway, in the industry we call it a thermal runaway, everybody else calls blow your face off. If you ever have like a combustion, some kind of combustion inside of the battery, the most common battery that does that is a cylindrical cell, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm not talking bad on the people and manufacturers that have those in there. I'm sure that they all took precautions for that not to happen. I'm just saying, real talk, that's just how it works. So on a prismatic cell, which is what we use, is more of a familiar kind of look. It looks like a battery cell in a lead acid. You take the cap off, you look inside, you see that square? That's what it looks like. Obviously, it's not exposed. So you don't have to worry about that. It is a sealed cell, and the way you do it is you tie it in series. So series meaning positive to negative, parallel meaning positive to positive, negative to negative. You tie them all into series inside there. So like on a 12-volt application, you would need 4 because they're 3.36 volts each. 3 times 4 is 12. On a 36 volt, you would need 12. 3 times 12 is 36. So depending on how many cells you have in the battery, it's going to obviously base it off of what voltage the battery is. In our batteries specifically, all of our batteries that are tied into series are laser welded. So they're not soldered, they're not nut and bolted. It's laser welded, and we wanted it to be laser welded because we wanted to guarantee that weld's not going to break, no matter how rough the water is, how much you're shaking it, no matter what. Because these things go in RVs too. You know, you're cruising in your RV and you're going down this washboard road in Yellowstone for 16 miles. It's going to shake, rattle, and roll. So we wanted the durability. We wanted to make sure that it was going to be nice and strong and it would never break. So we laser welded everything. It was an option. It wasn't a must. We chose to do that. Every other connection inside the battery, if it's not laser welded, it's a nut and bolt, and it's got Loctite on it, and it's got RTV on top of the nut, so it'll never back out. It won't ever turn. So that RTV is on top of that, and it keeps it from spinning. Not only to mention, we have the lock threads on the back too, the nylon locks on the back of the nuts. So we just wanted no issues, and we figured if we could mount everything securely, there should never fall apart. So that's what we did. Our BMS is 150 continuous BMS on our 100 ampere hour, and it's 150 on 150 ampere hour. So ampere hour, for those of you that don't know, is your fuel tank. So the higher the ampere hour, the more the runtime. So like on a 24 volt, like you were talking earlier, on a 24 volt application, you need 2 12 volts. You need to tie them in series, positive to negative. 2 12s together make 24. At 50 ampere hour, you're only getting 50 amp. You're getting 50 amp. You're getting 100 ampere hour because it's 50 plus 50 because they're in series.
Yeah.
If you put them in parallel, then it would be only 50 and 50, but you're drawing a little bit from both at the same time instead of all of it at once. So
I got you.
They don't make. I don't ever see myself developing a 24 volt battery. It could be a thing in the future, but we could always, you can always up your ampere hour on the 12 volt itself. Like I have a 12 volt that's 150, so you would have 300 ampere hour. Dude, you could pull a skier and a wakeboarder behind your trolling motor with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you ain't never got to worry about it.
That's what my trolling motor batteries are.
That's right.
I do. Yeah, I run 2 150s.
There you go. Perfect. I mean, and I'm sure you almost throw yourself out of the boat every now and again.
Yeah, if you crank it up, it'll let you know.
It's got juice.
I believe it.
But I didn't
100%.
realize that gave you 300. I had my math reversed, so when they're in parallel versus in series, I had that confused. So I probably have way more than enough at 300.
Oh,
Yeah,
you have
always
way
buy
more
more,
than
yeah.
enough, brother. There's no doubt. Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, on the 36-volt application, if you're running 312s and you're running my 100 ampere hours, it's the same thing. You're getting 300 ampere hour.
Yeah.
And all it's doing, like in a tournament setting, it's just guaranteed it when you need it without having to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to have it. It's never going to drop faster than you can use it, which is a good thing on a tournament setting. So
yeah, and I think that's the worry that most folks have is making sure they have enough. And there's a lot of confusion because if you go on the forums, which is the worst place to do your research, everybody will tell you 50 is not enough for a trolling motor for all day. Trey and I have fished all day plenty of times in his boat with 250 amp hour batteries.
Well, actually,
and which actually turns to be 100, which is more than enough for a day of fishing.
and that might be something we want to have you talk about there. Is the difference between the lithium and lead acid and your actual usable amp hours and all that.
Yeah.
Because 100 amp lead acid is not going to give you the same runtime as a lithium.
No, correct. So most of the marine industry is in like the AGM, right? Everybody wants to run AGM. The lead acids are really not that big, especially on a competitive level. Before lithium, everybody ran AGM. So on an AGM application or a lead acid application, the way that the battery works is it's got full charge and it's going to peak. And once it peaks, it goes like this. And then you start getting voltage drop. And then the battery starts to drop. And then your motor gets slower and slower and slower and slower. And then it's like, okay, it's time to go home because I just can't do this anymore. So on a lithium application, it's everything it's got until it hits 0%. So
then it dies.
There is no bog down. You're gonna be going and then it dies. There's no bog down. There's no warning. And that's the upside to lithium. And it's also kind of a downside at the same time because you're not really sure where you're at. I mean, you can look down on your graph and see what your graph battery voltage is, but you can't look at, I mean, most batteries, my battery, you can. We have an app. You can just log into your app and be like, oh, yeah, dude, I'm still at 80%, dude. We're good to go. But if your battery doesn't have an app to where you can look to see what the charge is, then at that point, obviously, you're stick in the mud because you don't know.
Yeah.
So
I think most of these boats are sold with AGM batteries in them right now. Is that like when you get a boat from the factory or from the manufacturer, they come with an AGM usually, don't they?
They come with one battery and it's the starter battery.
Oh, just a deep cycle.
Yeah, typically your
cranking.
trolling motor batteries and that are added at the dealer before, so you can. But even now, when you order a boat, if I go in and order a new Vexus, I can say I want lithium batteries from the factory, and they'll set up and do the install.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's becoming more common now. But previously, it was either no batteries, which some of them still do, and then the dealer will put batteries in, or it's one AGM starting battery.
Yeah,
correct. You boys are knowledgeable. You don't need me.
No. I mean, I want to. Yes, we do.
I don't know anything about the batteries. I just know what comes in the boat.
Listen, like everyone is a subject matter generalist when they're on those forums or it's your buddy, right? They're going to tell you what works for them, right? But you know, there's a 99% of the people that are boat owners out there that are recreational anglers and stuff. They get their boat out once in a while, right? They're not on the water every day like we are or whatever. And so they're going to have those questions when they go to your local Bass Pro Shop or your Cabela's or something. And they're going to ask those questions to those guys there, and they may or may not be able to answer those questions, right? Some of those guys are just, I just sell boats, man. Like that's all I do. You know what I mean? I don't have the deep knowledge of batteries. So can you talk about that for a minute? Like just say the average customer goes up. You talked about it a little bit before about like the weight and stuff. How does somebody go about looking at, and obviously promoting your brand is number one, but what should they look at with a lithium battery when they're going to buy one?
I think even before that, the question we get all the time is lithium worth it? So what is the argument to go lithium versus AGM? Because there is a cost difference. It's fairly significant.
For sure.
What is I know in my opinion is, but from somebody who has dealt and worked with all of them, what would your explanation be to the benefit of lithium versus AGM or lead acid, and why the cost is worth it?
So I'm gonna sell you boys some batteries right now, especially you boys that got AGMs running around. So the obviously from a sales point of view, the question is always, why should I spend more to get the same value, right? The answer to that is you're not getting the same value. You are getting more value. You're getting longer warranty. You're getting more fuel in the tank. Not literally. I'm talking. You're getting more draw time, as I would say, and you're getting a longer warranty. So like, I know you boys are back east, so it's a little different. But out here in Arizona, if you buy a 12-volt AGM and you keep it in your boat, and your boat, you go. Let's say you go on the weekends, but you go pretty much every weekend. The time that your batteries are sitting on that charger or not doing nothing versus the time that you're pushing and pulling on them, you're only going to get about 2.5 years out of the battery, regardless,
if
right?
you're lucky.
If you see, so you guys run into it too.
Yeah, here in North Carolina is about the same.
That was pretty. Like on the lead acid side of things, it's different because they're not sealed. So like here with the dry heat, they suck a lot more because the dehydration factor kicks in. So you actually get sucked out more water. So I tell people this all the time, like especially my older folks, just to make it make sense. I said, if you were to put a glass of water on your countertop and you leave for 6 months, will there be water in it when you get back? The answer is no. I said it's the same concept in your battery. The water is going to evaporate out of the battery. So lead acid is just a horrible application for marine, regardless.
Yeah.
Even the sealed, it doesn't matter. So you're going to want to go completely sealed with AGM, or you want to go lithium. So an AGM battery per se, retail market value is going to be anywhere from $350 to $500, depending on which one you want. That 112 volt you're going to run your graphs with, let's say. Volta has a 12 volt lithium, 100 ampere hour, group 24. We sell retail at $800. So you got a $300 difference. The $300 difference, you're getting an 8-year warranty, 5-year free replacement. So if anything happens inside of that 5 years and you go into your phone, into your app, and you screenshot me and you show me that one of your cells are dead, the second I get that, I call my shipping department. I said, this is the customer's name. This is his address. I need it out today or first thing in the morning. I send it out. They get their old one. They send it back. That's how the warranty is taken care of. It's no BS. It's no, hey, send it in. I got to look at it, crack the top, look at it. Because once that top's cracked, that battery's done. You're getting a new one anyway, regardless. You can't put it back together, no matter what these people are telling you, because they're glued on. So unless you like heat it up and do all like, and they're not doing that. They're taking a reciprocating solid and going, bring, and they want to look and see what happened. So that's one of the reasons. Is it you're getting a 2-year warranty on your AGM and it dies in 2.5 years and you're 6 months out, you're going to be upset.
Oh yeah.
You know. So why not spend the extra $300 with the guaranteed 5 years, no issues, and then it's prorated for the next 3. So because after 2.5 years, you're paying another $300 to $500. And if you get the one on the higher end of the range, you're already paying more money than you would have to begin with, with nothing to show for it. Not to mention,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope. Keep going.
So, not to mention the lithium application, you're going to get 3 to 5 times more runtime out of it than any AGM application on the market. Period. Hands down. That's just with the same ampere hour. Because an ampere hour on a lead acid or an AGM, because of how that works, full charge, you're good to go, and you start to drop, versus a lithium to where it's going to shoot all the way across until it's done, and then it brick walls on you. That's a huge difference. I mean, I have a testimony. One of my anglers, his name's Shane Edgar. He's a stick. He's local here. He's a young buck, but he's a go-getter. He was fishing the one bass up at Shasta. He had a charger issue. The charger took itself out and one of my batteries out. Remember I mentioned my pro staff gets 236s. He fished a 3-day tournament. Now it's a one bass tournament, so these are big money tournaments. He's trying to pay his bills. He fished a 3-day tournament on 136 volt, 54 amp on one charge, and still had over 20% when he was done on the 3rd day.
Insane.
Blew my mind.
You know, when I switched to lithium a few years ago, I think after you did, but doing all that research, I think that's what a lot of people fail to realize. And I was having issues, and I knew other people with issues, but like I had a 100 amp AGM battery, right, starter, and running all my graphs. When you start running like 4 graphs and live scope, I mean, I was pulling like 14 or 20 amp hours, and so like that's only if you ran an AGM all the way down, which you can't do because as we talked about with that discharges, right? It's just you're gonna have that voltage drop. You're only getting like 5 or 6 hours of fishing.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now, obviously, as you start up, the alternator is going to recharge some of that, but lithium charge way faster on the alternator, and right. So that's the big benefit is that they cost more, but you're not going to have the voltage drops. You're not going to have power loss issues, and the other bad thing about either lead acid or AGM, like that constant, because that battery is not in a constant state, and it's always going up and and being pulled draw, like they go. That's why they go bad so fast.
Sure,
on our boats and all, just because it's not the ideal necessarily application.
You always hear people talk about charge cycles when they're comparing the two.
Yeah.
So can you give a little bit of technical information on what that means?
Yeah, I'll go all Bill Nye on the charge cycle.
Yeah, let's do it.
So a charge cycle on an AGM, you'll never see. You won't. It'll die well before you'll ever reach it. On a typical AGM, you're looking at like 22 to 2700 charge cycles. Right? That's 22 to 27. That's 22 to 2700 trips. You are not taking that boat out 22 to 2700 trips in 2.5 years.
And an actual charge cycle, right, is from 100 to 0, right?
A charge cycle technically is from 100 to 0. I don't consider that a charge cycle. I can a normal usage. If you get it down to 50, 60, 40, 30, and you charge it back up, that's a cycle.
Okay.
Because regardless, you're never going to see that anyway. It's you're never gonna put yourself in a situation to hit 0. Now on a lithium battery, they're going to be anywhere from 35 up to 5,000. Again, you're not going to see 35 to 5. You're not going to see that in 5 years. You know what I mean? You're just not. That's just crazy. You'd have to fish every day without skipping a day. It's just not going to happen. Life happens. Yeah. Work happens. Sometimes you just like, dude, I've been on the lake for 20 days straight. I'm going to go to the park today. you know? So the charge cycle, I really tell people not to really focus too much on the charge cycle side of things because it's really not something to worry about because you're never going to see it anyway. I tell people to focus on ampere hour. I tell people to focus on quality of cell. And I tell people to focus on BMS. Now, I understand that, like you mentioned before, I just sell boats. I have no idea what you're talking about. So if you have a person that's there, go talk to the guy at the parts counter. Because if he's selling a lithium battery, he should be knowledgeable on a lithium battery, or he's not. He really shouldn't be there.
In theory, but you know how it is trying to find treated lumber at, let's just say, your local store here rhymes with Lowe's or something. You know what I mean? But and that's but even so, most people are doing internet purchases now, right? So they're not going in to a brick and mortar facility. They want to buy stuff off the internet. So they're reading the forums. They're looking on the Book of Faces. They're looking on the YouTubes. They're looking on all this stuff. Well, give them, I mean, you've already mentioned a lot of it, but anything that you want to add, like, hey, this is what you need to look for when you're purchasing a lithium battery.
I think to build on that, how do they evaluate a BMS and a cell to make sure they're getting quality in their lithium battery
over the internet?
Choice? Over the internet, or even if they walk into a retail store, because obviously you want them to buy Volta, but not everybody's going to buy, one brand. So if they are looking, how do you judge that when you can't see it physically with your eyes?
Absolutely. So I encourage people to call me. I encourage it. If you have any questions, go to the website, call the phone number, say you want to talk to Beau, say you want to talk to Abel, say you want to talk to a technician of any sort. We have been so in depth with the lithium. I mean, we talk to our distributors all the time. We are distributor manufacturers all the time. Hey, what changed? Hey, why is this different? Hey, is there anything new in this application? because I want to be able to, if I have a question asked, I want to have an answer. I want to be at the right answer, and I want to have it when they ask it. So you have to have that knowledge. And not only, and it's for one thing, and it's exactly this question. I want my customer to feel like I'm knowledgeable enough about the battery to be able to have an understanding of what could happen. Because I get a lot of what ifs questions, all the time. And I have the answers. And it's because I've taken the time to educate myself on how lithium works, what the reason we're all here, have the answers to the questions that are asked. But if you are shopping online and you're like, well, let's say you go to a different lithium company, call.
Yeah, say you go to Temu.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 6 months later, when you get it, you call them up and you ask them, hey, why is this happening? You know, but
like a brand that rhymes with Lakota.
Lakota, yeah, exactly. You know, you guys are gonna make me blush because I've cracked open a lot of my competitors' batteries, and I'm just like,
yeah, not what they're claiming.
It is vaguely, but again, we're not here to talk about that. All I'm saying no. All I'm saying is that if you have a question about what you're going to purchase, call the manufacturer, and if you don't have a manufacturer, then call the person you're buying it from. Like, say it's your local boat shop, you know, like your mom and pop shop down the street. Say, hey, you know, I'm looking to buy this so-and-so brand battery. I want the 100 ampere hour. I'm curious about what kind of BMS is inside there. Do you have any idea? And if they say no, say, okay, well, could you get me a number to somebody I can reach out to so I can ask them? My local boat store that I sell to, they're pumping these things out. I'll shout them out. Copper State Tackle right here in Chandler, Arizona.
Oh man, they got a bunch of my money.
Oh, dude, they're great people. They're wonderful.
Yeah,
people.
they are.
The first battery I ever sold them, I was down at PCS in California. We were doing a show, and he called me. He's like, "Hey, Beau." I'm like, "What's up, David?" He goes, "Hey, I got a guy that's got a lot of questions, man. I just don't have the answers." I said, "Give him my personal cell phone number. You have him call me. I will answer all the questions that need to be answered." And we did, and he did, and he bought the battery. He bought two, and it was because he had the comfort of knowing that the person that he's buying this from has the answers, and if he didn't have the answers, he had somebody that did. And that's huge. You know, for all you retailers out there, you know, like, it's good to have that in your back pocket because you have a guy that's willing to take time out of his day to be able to explain to your customer why they need to make this decision versus a different decision. And realistically, like, the two things you need to ask about are what kind of cell is it, to get back to the question. I take the scenic route sometimes.
No, you're good. You're good.
But you need to ask what kind of cells are they? Are they cylindrical or are they prismatic? And is the BMS rated for that cell? Those two things, if they say yes and yes, it's worth a shot.
How do you confirm that? I know you're probably not going to see it, but like I'm going to do a lot more research when I'm probably going to know the brand I'm going to go with when I need to swap. But so the prismatic, like, how do I know that it's the right BMS for a prismatic cell? Is it the, you know,
I worded that wrong.
What's the answer I'm looking for?
Yeah, I worded that wrong. I apologize. So you want to know what kind of cell it is, and you want to know what ampere hour BMS you have.
Okay.
So the reason I say that is because, like, let's just say that you have this astronomical trolling motor on the front of your battery, on the front of your boat, and you have a BMS that's rated for 36 amps. I'm just using numbers to make it make sense. There's no BMS that's 36 amps, but you're pulling 45. If you pull 45 all day long, you're going to overwork that BMS. It's going to shut down. You're dead in the water. You want to have a BMS that's installed that is in there that will draw, like our BMS is 100 amp or 150 amp, depending on which battery you get, but it can take up to 600 amps for the first 10 seconds. And we did that, and that's the reason we chose the BMS, is because if something stupid happens, you got to short, and it's something's weird, you know, you're good. You're not gonna have to worry about it. Now, 100 amp BMS, I don't know a trolling motor that's going to pull more than 30 amps, 40 amps, 50 amps.
I hope there's not.
Yeah, there's no reason for that. But if you have a 50 amp BMS and a 50 amp battery, and you're pulling 60 amps for some reason, then you're going to run into problems. You just want to make
Yeah.
sure that the BMS in there is beefy enough to handle the workload of the battery and what it's going to be doing.
So you want it at least, I would say, at least equal to that battery. If I have a 100 amp hour battery, I would want a 100 amp hour BMS.
100%. We have it staggered that way specifically for ours. Our 100 amp battery has a 100 amp BMS. Our 150 amp battery has a 150 amp BMS.
Yeah. You know, it's not just the bass fishing world, it's the marine world in general. But, you know, in the bass fishing industry, obviously we've seen technology. The amount that people are putting on their boats is astronomical. The amount of graphs, you know, the trolling motors, the forward facing units, the rear brake systems that are on the power poles of the Raptors now. I mean, there's so much electrical. And so I don't want to get into like the you know, the harnesses and stuff like that, but clean power is so important. But a lot of people still have their same, they'll switch over to lithiums, but they'll still maintain the same practices as they used to in their 1985, like aluminum boat from back in the day. What I mean by that is they'll leave their battery on the charger 24/7 until the next trip, or they'll plug their battery in the winter time because they think it needs to be on a tender. Talk to us about some of the best practices for maintaining longevity out of a lithium battery.
That's a great question. And I have a great answer. So leaving the lithium batteries on the charger is not a bad thing. All that's going to do is it's going to accept that it's called, in the world we call it a float charge. So our BMS clicks over and it's a float charge. So all it's doing is just staying static, it's staying balanced, it's just making sure everything's good until you unplug it, and then you're good to go. Now, like on the lead acid application, it's the same thing as a trickle charge. You know, like you put your 12 volt 0.5 amp, 0.2 amp trickle charge on it, and it just keeps it up and it keeps it running, it keeps it healthy. The same thing in the lithium world. Because there's no on-off button on these batteries, right? There's nothing you can't turn it off. The only way to turn it off is to let it die all the way, and then it goes into sleep mode, and then you got to jump it, and it's a process. And I don't recommend doing that. But if you have to, you have to. I mean, life or death situation, and you're like, I got to run this thing as far as I can because I'm 30 miles offshore. What do you? We'll find you. We'll find you. But like I said, there's really no way to turn it off or anything like that. So, I mean, having that float charge on there is really beneficial for sure. Now, if you're storing it in a barn and you're not going to use it all winter because your lakes are frozen over or whatever, I highly recommend just running an extension cord out there to allow it to just maintain itself through those times. Speaking of like wintertime, like all of our batteries have a built-in heater. It's not a hey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 100%. You don't get the option. You're getting it. I don't care. I don't know where that boat's going to go. You sell that boat to somebody, like you guys are in South Carolina, it gets chilly. You sell that boat to somebody that lives up in Arkansas, it gets real cold up there. Well, I don't want you to call me saying you have a battery issue because it's frozen. I just took it upon myself to just eliminate that question and that possibility, period. And it's not like everybody else where you got to spend an extra $100 for a heater. There's no reason for that. Like you can go other competitors, you go and you can buy their 100 amp per hour for $800, and you can buy their 800 amp per hour with the heater for $950. That doesn't make any sense to me. So we just put it in there. It is what it is. You get it. You win, I win, everybody wins.
So you're saying for those asking those questions that I see quite often, hey, is it okay to leave my batteries plugged in all the time with lithiums? It's okay. If I live in a cold state like upper Michigan or whatever, is it okay to keep them charged over the winter time?
Sure.
Well, you don't have to if you buy.
As long as you have a heater, right?
As long as you got a heater, or whatever. Is it okay to charge your batteries inside of your garage in your boat, or is let's talk about fire suppression and stuff like that with batteries?
Absolutely. So, like I touched on a little bit before, the cylindrical cells are the ones that are going to have the most problems if there are any problems. If it's going to be a problem, it's going to be on that end of things for sure. It's not going to be on a prismatic cell. That's why we went with the prismatics. Lithium does not mind the heat. It hates the cold. So, it doesn't mind the heat. Dude, our garages here get 140 plus. and they're doing just fine. There's no issues with them. Now you get them out there where it's like 10 below. That's when you're going to start having problems. Is when it's cold, which is why we implemented the heater. I mean, you have to think about it. Out here in the Arizona sun, if you're out there fishing, and let's say you're a guide, and you're out there and it's 120 degrees, and right inside where your jack plate hits on the back of that boat is where your batteries are, and it's hot outside, so you know it's hot in there, and you're running them. So now you're creating more heat. You're going to get them up to 140, 150 degrees. Doesn't bother them at all. They're going to operate just as normal, like nothing ever happened. But the cold is where that makes a difference. So if you live in a hot state, you're totally okay. If you live in a cold state, that's where you have to make sure that you maintain those batteries, keep them plugged in, unless it's a Volta and you got a built-in heater.
There you go. Never crack open a lithium battery to inspect it, right?
Never.
Like never crack open a lithium battery. I've seen people, hey, I took this apart to see if it was, dude, like bad idea. In the book of bad ideas, right? Because we've seen lithium battery powered devices explode and stuff. I think like, I don't know, how do they catch on fire when oxygen hits them or something like that? I don't know. Water.
That's a question I have. So you have that issue. It sounds like a lot more with lithium phosphate, correct? Versus lithium ion. What?
Yes.
I've heard that question a million times. So kind of what's the difference in the two? If so you know, you may not know. I don't know. That might be more.
No, it's great. So lithium phosphate is a little bit more. It's more unstable, for lack of a better term. It's just not as stable as lithium ion, and the lithium phosphate batteries are the ones that you're seeing combust. And to be totally honest with you guys, the lithium fires that you're seeing, 99% of them are people leaving their DeWalt drills on a charger for 6 months without pulling them off, and they just pop. Just because they're not being balanced. They're just push. And then when they're on there and you get the little green light and it's like, oh, you're good to go. And you're like, okay, we'll just leave it on there until we use it. Winter hits, you're a shut-in, there's no yard work, and then pop. That's what happens. And a lot of those are phosphate.
I'm about to take all my batteries off the charger right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Please do. Please do. Please do. Especially like those big ones for like the weed eaters now and the lawnmowers. Like those are the ones you really got to watch for. Now, you did say, like, what is an accelerant? An accelerant for lithium is 100% water. If you were to drop a cube of lithium in a glass of water, it's going to, it gets all bonkers. 100%. Do not put water on a lithium fire. You will regret it. 100%. Now that we're talking about fires, this coming fall, most likely this spring, I should say, we're just going to go with the spring, we are installing fire extinguishers internally in all of our deep cycle batteries.
Really?
Yes. That is a thing. It's been in development. We have some testers coming. Like we talked about before on the golf cart side of things, our golf cart batteries that are being manufactured right now to land for this coming season are all going to have fire extinguishers built inside. And when we design system. That's right. That's correct. Sick. It is the correct compound of powder to eliminate the fire, to put it out. There's nothing in it that's going to accelerate it. So it's going to, you hit it like, and it's not like a spark hits it, it pops open. It's a temperature thing. So it can reach a specific temperature. Extinguisher is going to pop. It's going to put out the fire before it becomes a problem.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's absolutely critical. I mean, I can't tell you, I mean, it's not been all the time, but I've seen a handful of boats catch on fire.
Oh,
you see the short reels and stuff on social media and things like that. So just one more added layer of protection. That's great, man. That's a huge capability.
100%. And when we designed the battery we had the end consumer more in mind than anything else. You know, we have, like I called it before, the war room behind me. It's our little office, and then all of our desks touch each other, and that's where we communicate. We talk. An idea comes out, we throw it out, we talk about it, we write it down. The fire extinguisher, we asked one day, we're like, what's the most common reason that somebody would not buy a lithium? What is the number one reason people don't buy a lithium besides the price?
Fire.
That's right. So if we could give them a peace of mind knowing that that's not an option, or if it does occur, there is a solution built internally in the battery, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, I agree.
So we did it.
What, Pete?
These episodes always end up costing me so much damn money.
I know. I can't wait to see your name come through, buddy.
Oh man. Hey, listen, man, I've been running lithiums in my boat for 6-7 years now. The same batteries, by the way. And I will be switching brands, but it's a game changer. I mean, the lithium the lithium technology is a game changer. Not only do they last longer, man, they're a hell of a lot lighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which actually did hurt my top end speed in my boat a little bit because my engine's out of the water a little bit more.
It will.
But at the end of the day, like, there's nothing worse than being dead in the water. And it sounds like you have a product that keeps people on the water. And for those in the competitive bass fishing world, it keeps you cashing checks.
That's right.
I had another question. I can't remember what it was.
I was gonna ask them to sell somebody on Volta versus another brand, but if they listen to all that and they're not convinced, then I don't know what else he can say. Because the standard upgrade stuff.
One thing that we pride ourselves on here at Volta is our customer service. We've been, like we talked about before, we've been burned so many times from so many other lithium companies that when you call in here, we answer the phone and we speak good English. So you're not going to get somebody that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like you're going to speak to somebody that you can have a conversation with, and you're going to speak with somebody that's knowledgeable about the product, not only the product, but the compounds of the product, to be able to make you either understand what's happening or make you feel better about the situation. And I've never had that in any of the other lithiums that I've sold and on my other side of things. I don't, like I said, we're still pretty new to the fishing side of things, but customer service is like I work for my dad, right? If my dad hears my phone ring and I don't pick it up, I don't get fed lunch.
You're grounded.
I don't get lunch that
You're grounded.
You go hungry.
Exactly. And then I got to call my mom, like, Mom, Dad's being mean. And she can be like, do you not answer the phone? I'm going to tell her, yeah. And she's like, click. We're all about
matters,
the
man.
100%.
No, and if you look at some of the brands who have struggled as of late, and have tarnished their name, almost always comes back to that piece, right? Like, when they first were here, the service was great. Now it seems like they only cater to their staff, or you can never get a hold of anybody. Or, I talked to Dave in Chicago that spelled Dave with a Q, because they're talking to somebody somewhere, to your point, in another country that is just answering a phone for a company that doesn't really know anything about what they're doing. They're paying some customer service company to manage those calls. So that is a huge difference maker. And it sounds like you're doing everything that I would look for in a company, because that is part of it. I mean, every brand that we rep, every brand that we use, that's a big piece of it, and there's plenty of, we spend plenty of money with brands that we have no affiliation with, just because they provide that customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And some companies have reached out and said, hey, we'd be interested in this, that, and the other thing. It's like, well, I don't know you. I don't know your service, and we're happy where we're at here. So,
absolutely.
that hearing that, and they can reach and call you. And I know, like, when I reached out to have a conversation, there was no issue. I didn't have to go through 7 layers of people to talk to you before getting you set up for the show. We try to screen folks to make sure that they are somewhat articulate before we have them come on. Because we've had a few that are, we've had a few that are a little rough. We've had a few that are a little rough come on the show, and it's like, so we try to have a talk, and just make sure that we're going to have a meaningful show and provide information. And certainly we have provided information here. And I mean, I do want to give you the opportunity, Ben. Do you have any questions?
Well, I just had a comment, I guess, as we're getting close to wrapping up here. What I appreciate what you're doing and with Volta and all, it sounds like you're actually, I mean, you designed your own and worked with the manufacturer, specifically what you want internally. Look, when I was looking to go to lithium a few years ago, you can buy them yourself directly from factory, because there's only so many factories in the world that make this stuff. And if you look around a lot of the marine batteries in the industry, I noticed they look exactly the same.
They just slap a different sticker on it. And as you talked about, they're not prismatic, right? So manufacturing, but ultimately
they're just the middleman, right? Bringing in, and the reason why we all use those type of those companies, and we've in the past, is because of the warranty and the customer service and stuff. Because you can't do that if you try to do it yourself.
No.
The problem is when companies start having issues in the industry right now. Lithium batteries have become very saturated. There's a lot of companies out there. Then if you're not offering something different or a better quality, higher quality product, then you're going to run into those issues that you talked about.
Yeah. And nothing beats good customer service in the fishing industry. It is the number one turnoff for me, hands down. And so whether or not it's making a phone call or going to speak to somebody knowledgeable on a product, when you know more about the product than the person that's trying to sell it to you, you're probably in the wrong place.
That's right.
Right. And that's, you offered that for people that are interested. They want to become more knowledgeable. They want to purchase a lithium battery product and stuff. You said it yourself. They can call you and you're going to give them the insight. Clearly you want to sell your product to them. There's a reason they should buy your product. And that's because you do offer something different in this industry. As the industry continues to advance, do you guys find yourself expanding more in the marine world? Or are you going to try to keep your scale to what it is right now?
We right now we're generally focused on the tournament angler, right?
Okay.
Now, just recently, within the last few weeks, we're really starting to get into the kayak world. So we're branching out. We have, you guys know Jennifer and Dustin. They're helping us a lot with that, and it's gonna be crazy, boys. Buckle up, grab a brewski. It's game on. I also want, like you were talking about the segue, why my battery is better. I haven't had the opportunity to explain to you what's the active charging versus a passive charging.
Oh yeah.
So that is really the thing that separates us from any battery. Whether, I don't care what cell you have in it, I don't care what the name on the side of it is, it doesn't matter. So passive charging is one thing, and we're going to go over that, and then we're going to go over active charging. Passive charging occurs at the end of the charge cycle with a lithium. So what it does is at the end of the charge cycle, it balances all the cells and makes sure they're all 3.36 all the way through. Now, at the end of the charge, it kicks off, and then you're off and you're doing your thing. There's nothing maintaining that consistency throughout the day. So if you've got, let's say you've got even if they are laser welded or whatever it is, if you got something hanging on there, if you got something that's a little off about a cell, that cell's going to drop. And that cell dropping is going to cause that BMS to pick up the fact that it's dropping, and to protect the battery, which is what the BMS is designed to do, it will shut the battery down. So now we're talking about active charging. Now what active charging makes my butterflies go in my belly. So what it does is once the battery is fully charged, you're out cruising around. From the time that charger kicks off, every 60 minutes for 10 seconds, it automatically balances the cells within 0.3 millivolts of each other. Millivolts, not volts, millivolts. So your battery is constantly being balanced all the time. Yeah. It doesn't stop. Every 60 minutes. And then when you're on the charger, it's going to do its thing, and then it's going to kick off. Boom, starts over every 60 minutes. Every 60 minutes for 10 seconds. Active charging is the only way that Sean got 3 days on one charge at Shasta. Because if there was no active charger in that battery, that's right. There was nothing in that battery to keep those cells all in line, working together. He never would have made it. He would have made it. And that is what gives my battery the competitive edge on a competitive angler's side of things. That is the only thing that separates us, the boys, from the men. Like, there is no other lithium 12-volt deep cycle marine battery on the market that has an active charger built inside. We're the only ones. And it's just this little tiny red thing. It's about this big. It goes out to every individual cell. It comes back into it. It goes into the BMS. Now the BMS is aware of what's going on each cell all the time. Excuse me, every 60 seconds for 10 seconds. So you got one cell that keeps dropping off. Every 60 minutes, it gets brought back up so that you'll never have that cell drop. You'll never have the battery just stop. There's no reason for it. It never will happen.
It sounds a lot like me picking up the slack for you.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay.
When we're fishing and stuff like that. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a serious capability, man. Like I never would have thought of that in a million years. Like I didn't know anything before this episode about cells and how any of that stuff worked anyways. This is definitely going to be great education information for people out there. I think the other thing I wanted to say too is I really like how you're doing it, and you're having pro staff that are local to your area that personally give you the feedback on the batteries, right? Because we see it all the time in the industry looking for pro staff. They're, all the way, you're in Arizona, we're in North Carolina, you don't know us from Adam, and then all of a sudden you send us a product and you're like, hey, give me some good feedback on it, and then we don't ever tell you crap, So the guys personally that are out there grinding, wearing those things down, and you're able to take that objective feedback from them, and so far so good. You know what I mean? So
I have one guy on my pro staff. You guys probably know him. He's bigger than he thinks he is because he's just a super humble guy. His name's Roy Hawk.
I do know him.
Yeah, he's been fishing my batteries since the beginning of the season. He was cutting, Lake of the Ozarks this year in the Toyota Series. Yeah. He was cutting 2 inches of ice of the hull of his boat, and those batteries didn't skip a beat because they were self-sustaining themselves. Not only were they balancing themselves, they were keeping themselves warm. He had nothing to worry about, and that's our goal. Is if you're out there fishing for a paycheck, I want you to focus on the paycheck and not me. I did my job. It's time for you to do yours.
That's right.
I
like it.
So,
I know, right?
And the active charging thing, like you said, I never would have thought that in a million years. I'm a battery person. Abel's a battery person. The two people that put their Abel did way more of it than I did. I'm not going to take more credit than I need because he did so much of the engineering side of things and putting the numbers together and why this works with this. I'm not taking that away from it. I never will. But when push comes to shove, we did what we thought the customer needed. We gave the people something that they needed because we're battery people. We've seen the failures. We know why they failed. We've dealt with it. We've been on the phone with our customers on one side and our manufacturers on the other. And I got this guy waiting for answers, and I'm waiting for this guy to pick up the phone. So when we started taking these things apart and realizing what was going on, we found all sorts of stuff. And we took everything negative that we found, we eliminated it from the battery. We kept what worked, and we added things to make it better.
I like it, man. Like that's a true American business right there. Like doing things to make sure that we get the best product out there. I was going to say something funny about the two phones and having to be a mediator, but I'm not going to bring that up right now. It's too fresh in the news. But hey, as we're wrapping this up, where can people find you at? Where do they go? Socials? Where do they go? Websites?
Yeah.
How do they purchase the product?
Absolutely. So you can find us at our website. Obviously, it's voltapowerlithium.com. Our socials are always Volta Power USA. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on all the social media platforms, Facebook. If you really want to get to like our launching stuff, we have an app that we developed. Our show. It's a BATV app. You can find it in the iOS store. You can find it in the Google Play Store. You download the app. We send out stuff before we put it on any of our social medias. It's like our little exclusive. We don't charge for it. We want people to be able to find out. We want people to be able to interact. And the app's the place to do that. If you're local, like me personally, I would rather my distributors, such as Copper State, I would rather, if you're local, go to Copper State, buy it from him. And you're going to get the same product. It's going to be the same price. His price is the same price as mine online. And we made it that way because we want our dealers to sell their service over the product.
Yeah.
So when I go out and I talk to everybody, I say, this is what I sell it for on my website. This is what I expect you to sell it for, but this is how much you're going to make.
Yep.
You know, because I would rather them be because the more successful they are, the more successful I'm going to be.
Yeah,
I like it, dude.
I'd rather sell it to them, but you're more than welcome to. You can go online, voltapowerlithium.com. We have all of our information that we talked about today on there. You can go on, you can learn about the everything you need to know. You can learn about the batteries and all that stuff. It's all on there. We want our consumers to be educated on what they're going to get. We want them to understand what they're getting and why it's better and different than everybody else. And we made that very clear in our website. And it's hands down the only battery I'll ever put in a boat.
Absolutely, man. Well, we're looking forward to getting our hands on some too, because I'm here to tell you, we fish hard, dude. We play hard, but we fish hard, and we put these boats through some stuff.
And I can promise anybody's going to crack a laser weld, it'll be me.
Yeah. And
you know what, dude? I dare you.
Yeah. He said, challenge accepted.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Come on, old son.
We'll see how she does jump beaver dams.
Well, Beau,
I ain't never jumped no beaver dams. But hey, you were talking about losing the weight. We have weighted. They're coming. We have weighted battery trays en route to compensate for that.
There you go, dude. So not only
they thought everything.
Yeah, you're getting a fire suppression system here in the future. Weighted battery trays.
Mm-hmm. You get a heater. Standard.
Yep. It's an American-based company. That's always the most important thing.
And active charging. And you're going to answer the phone, or somebody there is going to answer the phone when a customer calls. That's right. You're going to get either me, my sister, my dad, or Abel.
Right. Because if you don't pick the phone up, you're grounded. Because your dad's going to.
No, I don't eat.
Well, Beau, man, we appreciate you jumping on here with the OneCast and breaking it down for our audience. We got young listeners, middle-aged like myself, and then some older ones. We got them around the globe. We get a lot of questions about technical things that we just truly can't answer. We're subject matter generalists, and you're a subject matter expert when it comes to battery power, man. And that's such an important thing to know about, especially with how advanced everything has become in these boats, right? You know, from screen sizes to trolling motors to forward-facing sonar units. We're adding boxes and boxes and boxes to these boats, and you got to have something that's going to power it. So if you're listening to this or you watched it on YouTube or whatever, take all those things that Beau said into consideration when you're looking at repowering your boat with the best lithium batteries on the market. I'm going to turn it over to these guys before we end. Pete, Ben, you got anything for Beau?
No, I'm good. Just appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk through all that. And for everybody listening or watching, I will have website socials for Volta Power linked down below, so you don't even have to go hunt for them. You can click on them right down there.
Absolutely. Well, Beau, we appreciate it. Stay on here real quick for us. We're going to shut this down. Thank you for being an American-based company.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. So just for you gentlemen taking the time to talk to me and allowing me to come on to your platform, Volta has placed a discount code for your show on our product.
Nice.
Oh,
okay,
man.
So Abel's right here. He's been hanging out the whole time.
What's up, Abel?
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's up, bud?
So all it is OneCast, ONECAST. OneCast 15. You get 15% off at checkout.
Awesome.
OneCast 15.
OneCast 15.
That's right. OneCast 15, and it's for
send it.
All your listeners. We'll probably run that for. You said it's coming out Thursday, and we'll probably run
next
it for
Thursday.
a couple of months.
Okay.
Yep. So this episode will drop on July 3rd. So perfect time. People are going to be traveling. We give them something to listen to on their car rides for the 4th, and
people are going to be out that weekend. Batteries going bad.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Happen.
And then as of right now, which it will still be when this airs, any purchase over $100 is free shipping. So
awesome.
You buy one battery, you ain't got to pay for shipping. So you're saving the 15 on top of not having to cut that into the shipping.
And free shipping.
Well, I guarantee you're gonna get some orders.
Yeah,
that's for
I
sure.
hope so, man. I hope so. I hope you boys get him in your hands and jumping beaver dams and just having a good old time.
I hear you, Beau. Abel, we appreciate you jumping on here for 14 seconds and throwing that code out there for all of our listeners. Look, an American-based company wants to take care of you guys. You know, go show them some love. I literally just had a phone call today with a buddy who lives in Florida about repowering his boat with batteries. And it's so funny that we're having this conversation right now. So I'm going to give Tyler a call after we're done here. He's serving our great country. So huge shout out to him. But thank you guys for joining us here on the OneCast. We're going to get all that information out there to the general public. And Beau, we appreciate you and Volta Power and being an American-based company and helping us continue to grow a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.